Hello, welcome back to Jay's Bass Channel, and we're talking a little bit more about compressors once again. Now, compressors are a vast subject, and you can spend your whole life learning about the nuances of tweaking out compressors, understanding when they're improving your sound or when they're making your sound worse. So in this video, we're going to be talking about rack mount compressors. And one thing about rack mount compressors is every rack mount compressor has an equivalent basically in floor pedals. So the main three types of compressors that you run across are FET compressors, and then you have photo-optic compressors, and then you have VCA compressors. Now, these are basically the mechanics in the compressor that create the gain reduction. And basically, when you plug your bass in and the gain reduction starts, it's really shaping the envelope of the sound by the way it turns it down, so you can actually get a kind of a crunch or a bite from the compression, and it actually, rather than smoothing out your sound, it actually gives you more punctuation and things of that nature. And you see what I'm holding in my hand here, it's a warm audio compressor, but it's basically one of the many variations of the classic 1176 style compressor. And if you go to a studio, it's very likely that if they're going to compress your bass either going in or with a plug-in during mixdown, it might be an 1176 style compressor. And this is an FET style compression, and basically the meter here basically shows gain reduction, and at a certain point your job here is to let your notes create a little gain reduction, and that's going to create some evenness in the sound, and it actually can make your sound better if you are really good at using a compressor. These compressors basically, they have several different controls. The input is actually how you get your gain reduction. If you want more gain reduction, you just drive the input harder. If you want less gain reduction, you turn it back some. And with the output, level is basically how loud the output of the thing is. You got a couple of more knobs here: attack and release. That's how quick the compressor sees the input signal, and then how the release is how quick it goes away. The ratio is basically how hard it's going to work. It's going to compress a lot harder at 4:1. I mean, like a lot less at 4:1 and more at 20:1. Typically, I think it's safer most times in the field to use the lower settings there. So there's your kind of a basic run through of your 1176 style compressor. This is one that really will accentuate grit on your playing when used correctly. There's other styles of compressors too. We'll look over here, and here is one of the many variations of your VCA style compressors. Most of your DBXs are going to be, VCA style. VCA compressors are clean clean, theoretically, but I find that the VCA compressors, when you get a lot of gain reduction going on, they can sound sometimes a little rubbery, but every compressor you get is going to sound different. And then your third type of compressor here's a variation of a photo-optic compressor. These things are very friendly, and you can usually get into some fairly heavy gain reduction with the photo-optic ones. They don't have quite the bite and grab that you get from this one, but they're very, in my mind, musical and transparent if you have a good one. Problem with compressors is like any other piece of gear, is you could get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different 1176 style compressors. They're all going to sound different. The different variations of DBX and different VCA compressors going to sound all completely different. And even within the realm of the photo-optic ones, and typically when you spend more money, you get better sounding compressors. So if you get a compressor and it just makes your bass sound terrible, it's not because compression's a bad thing. It's because A, you bought a bad compressor. B, you're compressing too hard. If you get much past 4 or 5 dB of gain reduction, often it's going to start to sound funky, start chewing your playing up. So the key to using compression is look at the gain reduction meter and be sure you're not getting too much. Or if there's no meter and you're using a pedal or something like that, listen, if it sounds funky, well, turn down the compression or the threshold or whatever's making it compress so hard so it doesn't compress so hard. The main enemy of proper use of compression is going to be overcompression. 90% of the people that use compressors are probably got things too heavily compressed. You know, if it's heavily compressed and it sounds great, well, fine. But a lot of times it can really chew things up if you're not really paying attention. And if you get your signal all compressed too heavily and it's got to go out to the front of the house or to your recording input, there's not really a way to fix that. So if you don't know how to use a compressor, maybe it's best not to even fool with it, or try to use it very minimally. But like I said, here is kind of your holy grail of bass guitar compressors, which is the 1176 or FET style compressor. Okay, well, I guess hopefully that's helped you guys understand a little bit about rack compressors. And like I said, there's always equivalent in floor pedals, and when you buy a floor pedal, you might want to look and find out, is this an FET style compressor? Is this a photo-optic style or a VCA style? And then there's other sub-genres of the whole thing, but those are your basic 3 that you're mainly looking at. So happy compressing.